Behold the sinister shadow of cruelty, a scourge upon this land. Few are those who do not cower at its dreadful sight. While red dragons blaze and gold dragons shine, the black dragon is the heart of darkness itself. Cursed is he who enters its fetid den of death, all to uncover its sinister secrets and vile lore. Yet that is exactly our deadly task right now on Riches and Liches. Welcome adventurers, scholars, and world builders. I'm Rich, and this is Riches and Liches, dedicated to dungeons, dragons, and tales of lore. Today we continue our exploration deep into the corrupted waters upon the lair of the Black Dragon. A most treacherous predator renowned for their sadistic nature and extreme cruelty, both fully on display in Part 1 of this Black Dragon lore profile if you haven't checked it out already. In this volume, Part 2, we shall discuss the rich lore surrounding these most villainous of dragons, their unique characteristics, and the ominous environments that they call home. And at the end of this volume, as always, I've created some homebrew Lair elements you just might want to incorporate into your next campaign or world-building activities. A quick reminder before we get started, if you'd like to support the channel or join us over on Discord, please check out the links below where you can now join my Patreon for free. No strings, I promise. It's not even a trial, just a free tier. So maybe check it out. Thank you. And now, join me as we weave through the sinister paths to reveal the untold tales of the Black Dragon. While the Black Dragon is often overlooked and eclipsed in terms of sheer dragon might and challenge rating by some of the more colorful of their chromatic kind, my goal today is to present the case that the Black Dragon is actually the last dragon you want to cross paths with. While many evil chromatic dragons, such as the red and blue variants, often project a certain air of majesty along with their power, much like that of their metallic rivals, black dragons, on the other hand, embody adjectives anathema to that of majesty, elegance, or regality. These serpent shadows are far more accurately described as sinister, sadistic, and vile and villainous. And today I will paint for you the clearest portrait of true evil living on the material plane. Behold the profane beauty that is the Black Dragon, a vile creature that slithers and lurks menacingly through its dank and dreary lair. Also commonly called swamp and skull dragons, the Black Dragon presents a fearsome sight, often evoking dread and awe in those who witness its grotesque grandeur. While black dragons mostly resemble other chromatic dragon species, you'll know it's a dragon immediately, they also possess a few unique and distinguishing characteristics that we will now profile. The Black Dragon gets its namesake from the dark, oily, and moist scales that shroud its long, serpentine body, mirroring the depth of the abyss and shimmering with a malevolent gleam in even the faintest of light. While I certainly do not recommend this approach, an up-close inspection of the Black Dragon will reveal variable hues that glimmer within its scales and wing membranes, providing a level of chromatic diversity more profound on the Black Dragon than any other. These accent colors typically match the shades of their environmental surroundings, often, but not limited to, sickly yellows and toxic greens. More exotic biomes like sulfuric springs of varying tints, the bioluminescent Underdark, or even overgrown jungle ruins can lead to further unusual coloration. Regardless, this fascinating trait is truly an eerie spectacle, as the blackened dragon scales seem to hold galaxies of darkness within. Like all dragons, black dragons use their massive wings for flight, vast and leathery, often torn and tattered with age. They stretch ominously, casting shadows that seem to absorb the very light around them, a visual and nightmarish reminder of the black dragon's heartless disposition. However, given their favored home terrain of swamps, marshlands, rainforest jungles, and other corrupted bog-like biomes, the need to move about in water often supersedes even flying in terms of the swamp dragon's mobility. And it is this aquatic proficiency that really differentiates the black dragon from their terrestrial relatives. One of the more amphibious of the dragon types, Black dragons breathe equally well underwater or on land, and their movements in bodies of water resemble that of a gator or a crocodile. This resemblance extends to their predatory nature, as they often lurk motionless in these deep, fetid swamps, awaiting an opportunity to ambush both victims and prey. To facilitate their aquatic predatory nature, black dragons possess webbed extremities on all four limbs, ideal for swimming, and when submerged, they can fold their wings in tight, reducing drag to become surprisingly agile in water. For bursts of speed, the wings can then partially unfurl for an additional burst of propulsion. And in a fascinating display of this power, this tactic allows the black dragon, even when fully submerged, to accelerate and breach through the water surface to immediately and seamlessly take flight. Just another terrifying ability that makes this ambush predator one of the deadliest of its kind. The head of the black dragon often holds its most unique visual distinction. Despite maintaining a lean and muscular body, the black dragon's facial features often appear sunken and wasted, with age worsening their cadaverous look by thinning the skin until at times bone is often exposed. Large, segmented horns of variable length extend from the dragon's temples, curving to form wicked spikes. These bony protrusions are extremely tough, resistant to chipping or breaking, and are in and of themselves tools of deadly impaling. And then you have the black dragon's eyes, consisting of luminous pools of pallid yellows and greens, or less often, even shades of reds and blacks that mirror the hatred in their hearts, each holding within them the depth of cruelty and cunning, a glimpse into their treacherous nature. The resultant skeletal visage these characteristics imitate is the foundational lore providing an origin for their skull dragon moniker, one that the black dragon regards as an offensive epithet, I might remind you. Like all dragons, the skull dragon employs a devastating breath weapon offensively, pun fully intended. The black dragon's acidic breath is characterized by the expulsion of a highly corrosive substance whose composition places it somewhere between a toxic, almost neon-like green plasma and a more subdued but no less lethal disease-like yellowish and viscous form of corrosive napalm or battery acid. Regardless, born of both biologics and the arcane, this deadly concoction is synthesized from the most toxic components native to the dragon's ecosystem, and further concentrated and potentiated by the dragon's own intrinsic dark powers. Upon activation, this torrent of green and yellow death emanates forth as a formidable streaming cascade of noxious liquid with a range of 30 all the way to 90 feet for ancient variants, and even beyond that if you're ever so unfortunate as to meet a blackened great worm. Projected upon its foes with a variable consistency, but almost always including a napalm-like adhesive property, the highly toxic and corrosive acid clings to both armor and flesh equally, the powerful biochemical reactions of which can facilitate both the rapid degradation of organic tissues as well as the dissolution of the most robust inorganic minerals and elemental metals. Of note to you world builders out there that are considering the black dragon for your table, it would not be at all unheard of, and in fact quite likely, that the alchemical, biological, and arcane properties that make up this biohazard-like weapon will vary from one black dragon to the next in what is a bit of a hallmark characteristic of the black dragon, something I'll expound upon in just a moment. Not merely serving as just a weapon of physical assault, the black dragon is just as likely to use their napalm and battery acid-like breath weapon as a tool of torment and maiming as to kill its victim in battle, further illustrating the epitome of what is so perverse and profane about this vile creature. True to their cruel and sadistic nature, the skull dragon often follows a preference for protracted torture of their captives, as watching victims writhe in agony from the corrosive exposure is an abhorrent favored pastime of the black dragon. It should be clear to all by now that black dragons are unparalleled masters in the art of suffering and terror, and while to be caught by any dragon typically results in one's death, capture by a black dragon portends a far more excruciating and protracted demise. However, for all of their signature characteristics, black dragons, more than any other of the dragon kind, often have the most variable of appearances. From the iridescent hues of reds, greens, blues, and purples that shimmer from deep within their blackened scales, to a dizzying combination of horn shapes, sizes, facial features, and even the variable colors and corrosive properties of their acidic breath weapon, it is unlikely you will ever find two black dragons that look exactly the same. This wholly unique trait, exclusive to the black dragon, can mostly be attributed to their unusual mating and breeding practices, which we'll discuss a bit later. To underestimate the sheer cruelty, sinister cunning, and brutal intellect of a black dragon would be a grave and most often fatal mistake. Like all chromatic dragons, black dragons are of course innately evil. However, these sinister dragons elevate their villainous game to all new heights. Being far more than merely sadistic, they are conniving and callous. They are patient and perverse. Many a fool have relied far too heavily on some theoretical or perceived hierarchy of the chromatic lineage, one that places the black dragon far below the more majestic and awe-inspiring reds, blues, and even greens. And very few have lived to regret that miscalculation. They are blackened serpents of immorality and depravity, the true psychopaths of dragonkind. Unlike many dragons who can at times find themselves open to reason and bargaining, mostly through flattery, ego-stroking, worship, or even personal gain, black dragons are rarely dissuaded from the calculating and ruthless pleasure they derive from the suffering of others. These barbarous dragons take great offense to the mildest of slights, and they are, by far, the likeliest among any dragon kind, and maybe among all living things, to require no reason or rationale to inflict the worst form of agony and suffering upon the guilty and innocent alike. Among even the evil chromatic dragons, the black dragon stands as an anomaly, fostering deep-seated hatred toward all living things, particularly other dragonkind and the humanoid races that dare to exist anywhere near its realm. The empires of humans, elves, dwarves, and all intelligent humanoid races are met with a contempt so profound it can actually twist the very lands the black dragon inhabits. This detestation is birthed not from instinct, but from an intense jealousy that festers within its black heart, a greed that transcends even the known and elevated avarice of other dragon species such as the great red dragon. And this solitary nature is one of choice, a refusal to share its spoils or relinquish any power or dominance or domain to another. In the mind of the black dragon, this world is a zero-sum game where only they are destined and deserve to rule. In fact, the black dragon fully embodies the Machiavellian mantra of it's better to be feared than loved, as they continually seek and desire to both dominate and destroy. While black dragons reside at the apogee of selfishness, they also actively seek to cause the suffering of others and will go to great lengths to cause the ruination of entire lands and communities, taking profane delight in watching the collapse of civilized societies in order to bring a level of oppression unique to the black dragon upon a population, all in an insatiable hunger for power, dominance, and control. Should you choose to engage a black dragon willfully, know they seldom exhibit a shred of respect or honor, and foolish is the hero who expects any type of fair fight, for the black dragon fights only with deceit and treachery. As the most vile and cruel of dragons, these villainous shadow serpents seek easy prey, crushing victories, and relish every opportunity to ambush and torment. Yet they reserve no honor or pride in battle, often cheating or retreating as necessary for their survival, with no hesitation, second thoughts, or a shred of guilt. Indeed, one will find that rare is the tavern tale or bardic poem written to exalt the vanquishing of a black dragon, as the skull dragon will often avoid the overconfidence and pride that is senselessly found in and that often precipitates the downfall of the more honorable chromatic kin. Reclusive yet fiercely territorial, black dragons lurk amidst the corrupted flora and fauna of swampy marshlands, toxic bogs, and decayed grottos where even light fears to tread. This is the preferred home of the black dragon. This domain of dark and polluted lands is a living nightmare, a terrain that morphs under the dragon's sinister influence, giving birth to carnivorous plants, thorny vines, toxic mists, and blackened waters that defy natural laws. The Lair is a reflection of its master's soul, an ever-expanding realm of blight that engulfs and transforms everything within its reach, a reminder of the dragon's dire and brutal presence. Black dragons generally establish their lairs to include networks of linked chambers excavated within swamps, lakes, and flooded forests. A typical lair contains spaces for sleeping, storing its hoard, pickling its prey, and even observing its victims. The black dragon excels in creating labyrinthine and crisscrossing tunnels intended to confuse intruders and potential escapees, with angled ceiling shafts permitting the dragon to drop in to desired rooms unpredictably. A mainstay of most any black dragon lair is the existence of at least 2 entrance and exit ways, one concealed above water for flight access and the other submerged. The Skull Dragon's treasure vaults are carefully positioned in the dry upper chambers, although water, rot, and contagion easily and often permeate these damp layers, which generally limits the dragon's collection of some valuables such as tomes, scrolls, items of clothing, and others that would succumb to the fouling of this lair and the surrounding region. For this reason, and although fond of all valuables, black dragons take special interest in the collecting of rare coins and prized ancient artifacts that are made from precious metals. The black dragon will also seek magical items and relics traced to long-dead civilizations to add to their hoards, and they always show special affinity if the history and backstory of a fallen empire or civilization is well known. Black dragons also have been known to occasionally dominate sentient magic items, treating them as playthings. And as a black dragon approaches the age of ancient status, they are well known to amass legendary treasures, although their gold and silver coin hoards remain a consistent interest. Few and far between rumors do exist telling of rare tales where black dragons have been bribed with particularly legendary and valuable coins or metallic artifacts, but only a fool would ever trust the word of a skull dragon. Black dragons are highly antisocial creatures, only interacting for biological reproduction or the rare and very temporary of nefarious alliances formed against a major threat from a common enemy. They approach others of their kind warily as potential rivals first and foremost, and will only resort to any level of cooperative effort with another chromatic when their own individual power proves inadequate to the task. A sinister and deplorable entity, with its deeply entrenched disdain for other creatures, the black dragon truly represents a darkness that can envelop even the brightest of realms. But even a dragon with this level of deep-seated hate for all living things does realize that continuing their lineage is of critical importance. However, even this most Darwinian and basic of survival instincts is expressed with the same sheer malevolence of the black dragon's characteristic cruelty. Unlike most species, where males compete for the attention of a female mating partner, adult female black dragons travel to vie for a male partner when they are ready to breed. By succeeding in a show of power and dominance, the female proves her strength to a prospective mate, and it is here that we learn the life of a young black wormling is the epitome of tough love and harsh upbringing. After mating is complete, the female lays her clutch within the male's territory, but provides no further parental care whatsoever. Her biological duty now complete, she immediately departs, having no further contact with either the male or her young. Talk about a deadbeat dragon. This form of parental abandonment leaves the reluctant and cold male black dragon to assume sole guardianship of eggs and hatchlings, protecting and only occasionally nurturing the young until they reach their own independence at a very young age, showing a form of parenting in the shallowest and barest of terms. While the skull dragon will often find and mate with another black dragon, it is just as likely to interbreed with other dragon species in a display of power and dominance, giving rise to hybrids that bear the terrifying attributes of the black dragon lineage blended malignantly with other chromatic attributes. These offspring, grotesque amalgamations of crossed genes, often exhibit heightened cruelty and sadism, a fusion that sometimes manifests in horrifying results. further illustrating both the dragon's relentless pursuit of power and dominance through any means necessary, and the aforementioned species characteristic of wildly variable and diverse appearances found among their kind. The black dragon, despite its desire for an absolute desolate existence, will often have minions and servants amidst its lair and dominion. However, given the skull dragon's proclivity for extreme cruelty and evil, few are the creatures that can or will coexist near them willingly. Black dragons do, however, easily manipulate swamp-dwelling humanoids like lizard folk, bullywugs, and the dragon-loving kobolds into worship. But even this practice has its limits, as it's not at all uncommon for a black dragon to consume their underlings once they tire of their mere presence. But generally speaking, only deeply cowardly and self-loathing beings would subject themselves to serving such merciless masters. However, this tendency also gives rise to another aspect of the black dragon that should add yet another layer of terror for you to consider. As the black dragon matures, it unveils to those within its clutches a mastery over the necromantic arts. This ability to bend the profane powers of death to its will allows the sinister dragon to cultivate an army of undead servants and minions at will. These servants in undeath are stripped of will and purpose and serve at the pleasure of the skull dragon with undying loyalty. Just another grotesque manifestation of the dragon's insatiable desire for power, control, and the oppression and suffering of others. And this presents a nice segue into the life cycle of the black dragon. With a natural lifespan that can cross into the millennia, the black dragon, like all dragons, have a unique characteristic of a continual increase in both their size and power over time, until the final stages of its natural life, where at that time, a rapid senescence precedes their death. It is here, however, that the similarities with other dragons mostly end. As the black dragon begins to sense the final stages of its natural life, while it's still at the apex of its power, many, in fact most, will seek to unlock the secrets of lichdom, or other means of cheating death as their end draws near. With a personality already mimicking that of the most evil and vile lich, the skull dragon is well suited for an undead state as a malevolent dracolich, lingering upon the material plane to continue the evocation of terror and suffering upon the mortal realm, and adding another path to explore for your own encounter and world-building efforts. As we move into the homebrew section of our Black Dragon profile today, I have for you 4 lair actions and 3 environmental effects for the swampy Black Dragon lair. I also want to mention here that the entirety of this homebrew lair, that I call the Pernicious Mire, including much more that I didn't have time to cover today, such as a fully detailed lair description, double the lair actions, 5 new adventure hooks, and 9 unique homebrew treasures of the Black Dragon, are all compiled in PDF form on my Patreon site. And before you think I'm trying to sell you something, you can join now, absolutely free, no strings. The link is below. Now, unfortunately, Patreon will not let me give free access to the shop for the downloads for the free tiers, but that's okay. If you join on the free tier and then just drop me an email, I would be more than happy to reply with the first full lair absolutely free. I actually plan to have dozens of these homebrew PDFs, full lairs, monsters, artifacts, adventures, all online and available, and I'm going to be updating it every month, all free to my supporters. But again, the Pernicious Mire of the Black Dragon, you can have completely free. Just hit me up. Okay, adventurers, you prepared for this. You won't accept the same fate that befell those cowardly thieves from Part 1. Your magic's prepared, your protection's cast. You ready your weapons and steel your nerves as you approach the point of no return, praying your valor does not falter and your skill does not fail, for you are about to descend into the lair of Dralaxus the Desolate. Okay, first up for our lair actions we have Swallowing Darkness. The dragon commands the darkness in the mire to become a tangible entity, swallowing entire areas of the battlefield with impenetrable darkness that extinguishes all light sources and blinds those within, leaving you vulnerable to unseen attacks. For an added challenge, the darkness could act as the wizard spell Maddening Darkness, with shrieks of terror and maniacal laughter forcing a save for psychic damage. Next up we have Shadow Spikes. From the pools of shadows cast by the twisted trees of the mire, spikes made of pure darkness erupt suddenly, impaling those caught unaware. For an added challenge, these spikes could also attempt to drag the victims into the shadows, attempting to consume them whole, and acting as a form of, say, the banishment spell. For our third lair action, we have Noxious Shadow Fog. The dragon releases a thick, shadowy fog that is imbued with the mire's noxious substances and the dragon's own magic. This fog is capable of obscuring vision, choking those caught within, and even corroding armor and weapons over time. Think Poison Cloud or a similar variant. For the fourth lair action, we have Shadow Portal. The Black Dragon can create portals right out of the shadows, allowing it to disappear and reappear elsewhere within the mire, and do so instantaneously. These portals can also redirect attacks, or even transport others, if used strategically to manipulate the battlefield. I see this and really all these lair actions fitting nicely into the Black Dragon's deceitful and even at times cowardly approach to battle, but your mileage may vary. And remember to use the appropriate lair action rules at your table. You likely wouldn't want to throw all these lair actions together, but instead pick one or two. Moving into the environmental effects, I have 3, but again, you would generally only select one of these for your lair, just trying to give you some choices. The first one is Malevolent Flora. The plant life in the mire has a vile life of its own. They reach out with thorny vines to ensnare the unwary, attempting to drain the life of their victims to nourish themselves, a gruesome mimicry of predatory behavior right in line with the Villainous Black Dragon. Next up at number 2, Echoing Screams. The swamp holds the screams of its past victims, echoing them at the most inopportune moments. These screams can suddenly ring out, disorienting and terrifying those who hear them, sapping their morale and resolve. So this could do lots of different things, from concentration checks to psychic damage, or even induce some level of fear. For the third and final environmental effect, Shadow Swarms. Swarms of shadowy entities infest the pernicious mire, fluttering through the darkness like macabre fireflies. These entities are drawn to life and light, attempting to smother and consume, a constant bothersome threat in the oppressive darkness of this mire. So what do these do exactly? Well, it's up to you, but perhaps they're a mere distraction. They do a point or two of damage, cause disadvantage on attack. Really, they're just meant to be more of a nuisance than anything else. In the twisted heart of the Black Dragon lies an endless abyss of selfishness and hatred, a void so deep that it consumes any semblance of compassion, mercy, and empathy. Black dragons are creatures forged in the crucible of jealousy, forever coveting what others possess, be it power, wealth, or the sheer joy of existence. Their hunger for the suffering of others is never sated, never quelled, and their hatred extends beyond mere beings, seeping into the very land they inhabit, turning lush forests into blighted marshlands, and blue lakes and streams into corrupted and black waters. Such is the grim hatred within these selfish and heartless creatures. As a perpetual engine of malice, hatred, and greed, they will tirelessly strive to pull all that is good and pure into their vortex of darkness and despair, all with a singular, chilling goal: to see all bow before their might or perish under the oppressive weight of their shadowy wings. A villainous chromatic dragon, often underestimated at the cost of countless lives, but hopefully we've prepared you for what may lie ahead. Truly one of the most evil beings in all of Dungeons & Dragons. That is the legend and the lore of the Black Dragon. I hope you were entertained and or learned something new today about the Black Dragon and had as much fun watching as I had sharing. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links below to our Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee donation accounts. Plus, how about you join our community of lore sages and scholars over on Discord, where you can now submit show suggestions that I read every day, all completely free. And if you think I earned it, maybe like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and until next time, remember, the only limitation at your table is your imagination.